Wow, how much is that going to cost me?
It reminds me, the sun, of course, is powered on thermonuclear fusion, so it's nukes all the way to the center. And I saw a bumper sticker, I think it was a very green bumper sticker, and it said, "No nukes," and the O and the no had an image of the sun. I thought that
Perfect. The sun puts down more than 1,400 watts per square meter. Now, that's just geek speak for saying that your backyard swimming pool, if it got all the sunlight...
Because we all have backyard swimming pools,
Right.
Charles.
Okay. How about the roof over your bedroom would generate enough sunlight energy, if converted properly, to light your home all day and all night? That energy is there.
So roofs are a waste of space unless they can pull in some sunlight.
That's right.
What you're saying. So all these issues affect culture. I think we should all be thankful to Jon Stewart for including scientists in his political dialogue. Most people don't, and they think they can solve all the problems arguing with each other about whose political leanings are more accurate than whose.
Oh, absolutely. Don't you just need the best soundbite?
Nah.
Seriously, the guy with the best soundbite wins. He's clearly right. That's our culture now, right?
That's right. That's right. It's not whether you're right or wrong. It's whether you sound cool.
No, not at all.
That's unfortunate. This world in which we live.
See, but now we do have a cool soundbite guy, you. But your soundbites are good. You know what you're talking about. You're actually factual. So that's how we're winning.
Well, as I said on Bill Maher a couple of months ago, when I was asked to comment on why his previous week's guests all disagreed with evolution and global warming, I just simply said, the good thing about science is that it's true whether or not you believe in it.
That's right.
So on Startalk Radio, we have our interview with Jon Stewart continues after the break. And when that comes, we will find out much more about what Jon thinks of scientific discoveries, what role he thinks it should play in the show, what role it plays in public discourse. All of the above is what will happen. And I'm just so happy we've got intelligent talk show hosts who think about science. This is extraordinary.
Yeah, Jon is really great in that way. And he sort of demonstrates the idea that you can think scientifically and be scientifically aware and knowledgeable without actually practicing it.
And still be whatever else it is you're going to be in life.
Exactly. The only difference between scientific and non-scientific knowledge is one extra step of verification, falsification, and reproducing your results. And you don't have to be the guy who, say, is ordained as a scientist in order to do science.
To have that kind of fluency.
Precisely.
All right, so when we come back, we will pick up our interview with Jon Stewart on this subject, the politics of science and political science.
The future of space and the secrets of our planet revealed. This is Startalk.
Now we see everything that's going wrong with the world and those who lead it. We just feel like we don't have the means to rise above and beat it. So we keep waiting on the world to change. We keep on
Welcome back to Startalk Radio. I'm your host, Neil deGrasse Tyson. And for this episode, we're talking about politics and science and as they are revealed on talk shows. In particular, our guest this week is Jon Stewart, who, it turned out, was quite opinionated about technology and our reaction to it and the pace of it. Let's get this latest clip and see what he thinks.
Technology never advances with anything that is less convenient than what preceded it. In the sense that...
So a car is not more convenient than a horse-drawn buggy?
No, that's what I'm saying, because a car is more convenient than a horse-drawn buggy. But if they want you to switch fuel sources, if they want you, people are never going to, of their own volition, switch to something that is less convenient than what it is because of the virtue of that technology.
Gotcha. Because technology has to make your life easier.
Or give you the illusion that it's easier, that it's faster. You have to be able to, no one's going to switch to a technology.
On moral grounds.
That's right. Or on grounds that, well, in the long run, I will be okay. Each new piece of technology has to make its case.
We can't think that far in advance.
Make your case!
Charles Liu.
Yes. Well, I bought a hybrid.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why?
But it had to, because...
A hybrid car.
Hybrid vehicle, because in the long run it would be better for the environment. But it had to cost $5,000 less than the competitor's hybrid for me to buy it.
So you can be as green as your
Wallet
pocket
allows. Precisely.
So, Leanne, do you drive a hybrid?
I do not.
You walk.
No, I drive.
What do you drive?
I drive a Honda Civic.
That's good.
LX.
That's the same difference.
Well, no, not really. I don't have any green street cred here, like my co-host.
Well, I'm just flipping the SUVs. The
Yeah, no,
environmental.
I would never do an SUV.
thing.
I would never do
Yeah.
that.
Well, so the point is that Jon Stewart was making is that the way we interact with our technology is we will only allow something if it makes our life easier.
Absolutely.
And if it makes our life harder but saves the environment, it'll never fly.
No.
This is the worry.
We're not that species.
So that's some other species.
Yeah, that's some other planet. We can't do. You cannot go back to holding hands.
Yeah. Well.
Well, there are some cultures that are willing to do that in this world.
Just not Americans.
Just not us Americans.
Capitalist Americans.
Right.
Well, there are also what favorite discoveries exist in science. I was very curious to learn of Jon Stewart's science literacy, and let's find out how he thinks about the moving frontier of science and technology.
What's one of your favorite scientific discoveries over the past?
That in astrophysics, that we learned that the very elements in your body are forged in the cores of stars that exploded, scattered their enriched contents across the galaxy, enabling star systems to form that are enriched with the ingredients of planets and life itself.
We are made up of
We are
the
stardust.
molecular. Yeah, that's true.
It is true and profound. And
That is incredible, and I did not realize that. Could you trace, in the way that you have genetic lineage that you could trace, could you trace
The
the molecular matter, the stardust, if you will, to what system that you came from? Would there be a way to track, or is all of mankind based on the same carbon explosion?
Now, first of all, who's doing the interview?
But can I tell you something? Here's the
allow
thing.
this. You get one exception.
You're far more interesting than I am, so that's my problem here. But you just brought up a very interesting point. If we are made up of cellular material from the cosmos, then we should be able to trace it back to certain star systems.
The problem is that was
5
5 billion years ago. But what is certain is that the iron...
I'm not saying they'd still be home.
Right. The
I'm
iron
just
in your
saying,
body and all of our bodies all came from the same supernova explosion. That's a certainty.
But aren't we all from one singular supernova explosion?
Well, we're from several, but we're from one sort of birth sac in the universe.
So are all human beings tied together? Are we all generated from the same place?
We are not only genetically connected to each other and all life form on Earth, we are molecularly connected to all the matter in the universe, and we're atomically connected to the Big Bang itself.
That's crazy. You know what that reminds me of?
What?
Snapple.
I don't know why.
Just good ingredients. Just good natural ingredients put together to taste delicious.
We'll try to get them as a sponsor.
Yeah, please. I think that would be wise.
Snapple.
That's hilarious, man.
Leanne. So what's interesting here, first, I'm trying to interview him, and he's interviewing me.
I noticed
I was ready
that.
to slap him. But in any event, there's an important philosophical point to be made, that in practically every political discourse, it's all about we versus they, and we're not the same because we're thinking differently or we're voting differently. And what science shows more and more, and at every turn of the discovery, that we are more connected than ever before. This is two completely philosophically at odds approaches to life. And to the extent that politics drives the world, it leaves me with very little hope about what the future of the world would be. Charles.
Well, historically speaking, you can even look back and say archaeoastronomy, like Stonehenge, the Brits 1,000 years ago, or the Chinese, or the Native Americans in Central America. They all looked under the same sky. If you look at their astronomical discoveries, even though they never talked to each other, they found the same sky.
That's true.
And so, nowadays people look back and say, oh, it must have been aliens who came in and did that because the people couldn't possibly have learned it. That's so untrue. We have been knit since the past, and so I actually have a little more hope than you have that we can also sleep under the same big sky.
Well, maybe our future in space is what will provide this kumbaya moment for us all. So, in fact, my conversation with Jon Stewart went to space. We were there together. And let's find out what Jon tells us.
the 1960s were such a tumultuous decade. And
amazing that we went to the moon in the middle of all of that.
In the middle of all of that.
Assassinations, the civil rights movement, the war, Cold War, hot war.
That's exactly right.
And the only hope of that decade was the mission to the moon.
Was the mission to the moon. And the mission to the moon was to represent the greatest of what man could do. And I think it was interesting that the achievement in itself became overshadowed by the lack of knowledge of what to do once we got there. If 10 years after landing on the moon, the best we could do is hit a golf ball and be like, man, that thing flies, then
or drive around.
That's right. But I do remember just how astonishing. Now, in today's media culture, landing on the moon for the first time would be good for a good week's worth of media cycle,
okay.
And then something else would happen. But back then, I remember the astronauts came around to schools. They sent moon rocks around to schools.
Yeah,
I was in the Boy Scouts at the time, and
You in the Boy Scouts?
I was in the Boy Scouts. We guarded the moon rock display. It was in a VFW hall, and they had all the NASA stuff set up there in a big display.
The rock with uniform.
Right. That's
protecting
right.
It from...
Flanked and protected, and it's out of a Rockwell painting.
Yeah.
But people were.
Where was your hometown? Where was that?
This is in New Jersey, Central Jersey.
Okay, I'm thinking Central America. This is Jersey.
Central America.
Doesn't
Yes,
count.
it was Nicaragua.
No.
But they brought around all these astronauts.
Rockwell
were,
didn't paint New Jersey. I'm sorry.
Settle down.
Okay,
it's a
go on.
lovely state. It's made out of the same stuff as the supernova.
Yeah, that's
you should
true.
remember
Okay.
that. We're all connected,
that.
Neil.
I've forgotten.
No
that.
reason to
About
cast
New
aspersions.
Jersey.
Thank you. It's all Stardust, baby. But they all came around, and it was, people lined up to look at the rock, and it was something. And this is also on the heels of terrible accidents within the space program where people died, and really brave astronauts, and Chuck Yeager, and all those
The Right Stuff.
and the right stuff,
Yeah,
and they captured the imagination of people in a way that.
Well, we're trying to go to
nothing had.
Mars,
But nobody can get up